Code Orange, the above album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from Pittsburgh-based metalcore darlings, Code Orange. They've been at it for a pretty long time now, at least the last decade or so. They initially were going under the name Code Orange Kids. They put out their debut album after that. I should say after a long string of very successful, very exciting EPs, they dropped their debut album, Love Is Love, Return to Dust, and I listened to it at the time, and I thought it was okay. I thought it was above average for modern metalcore. I still do think so, but I do believe that the band was still searching for their sound and searching for a little something different to make them really pop. Now, when they changed their name to Code Orange and put out albums like I Am King, that really got my blood pumping. This was a much more in-your-face and nasty release. I love the sheer heaviness of everything. The production was really great, too. I mean, it was still a little rough around the edges, but my eyes were definitely in their direction. Now, 2017's Forever, this thing was just a great album from start to finish. I initially gave it a very good review. It's only grown on me since. I still think the thing is incredibly solid. The title track, Forever, it landed in my top 50 singles of the year, and I just felt like the band was just playing this style of music with just such a fuck you attitude that they just did not give a shit. That I just loved everything that they were doing, and my thoughts on their last album, Underneath, have not changed at all. I still think it's one of the more daring, experimental, and genuinely creative albums in modern metalcore, which leads me to this latest album, The Above, and leading up to this thing, they dropped like 4 or 5 singles, all of which I really did enjoy, and for the most part, I do like this album. Never Far Apart as an intro, love the hell out of this thing. This is a fantastic way to start this album off. The pacing here, you can cut the tension with a knife. It is suffocating as anything. And the vocals on this track, I can already hear those Code Orange haters going off on them. Trust me, I know there's plenty of them. And yes, you can argue that they're a little cheesy, but in this sense, I do believe it works. Tense passages, a fairly sweet chorus. This is very Code Orange. It's not the most explosive intro, but it does a great job of ushering in the sounds of this album. Theater of Cruelty, on the other hand, is just really impressive all around. Not only is it on the more experimental side of their sound, which is something I will always salute, it really does show the band trying something new and progressing. There are elements here of hard rock and just old school classic alternative rock. You're gonna hear that a lot on this album. But it's still very raw, it's still very gnarly, it's still very much a Code Orange track, even if the chorus on this track once again opens up really sweetly and almost gets introspective. And I love how ridiculous it gets by the end of it. It's so over the top. Now, I will say this. Take Shape, featuring Billy Corgan. I saw this track coming from a mile away. I got scared, and initially I was unmoved by it entirely, but it's a great single. The chugging riff does get a little bit, I don't know, it definitely took some time to warm up with me, but the pacing, the production, and this absolutely, genuinely fantastic hook, which may be the best one on this album, make it really good. And Billy Corgan on this track, I'd argue he sounds more comfortable here than on any shitty chapter of Autumn. Do not be surprised if this track lands in my top 50 singles of the year. Also, I do really love Mirror, and I can see a lot of people hating this track, either Code Orange fans or not, because this is the most stripped down the band has ever been. But Reba's vocals, they are truly passionate and just, my God, they're great. For an acoustic throwback, kind of alternative rock sounding track, look no further. They really do nail it. It's a risk I'm glad that they took. Now, I Fly, on the other hand, is a little bit more Code Orange by the books. I love the rumbling riff that we get on this track and just how freakish it gets. It's pummeling as shit, but it's still really catchy enough to stick with you. It's a great push for the band and a really strong reminder that they really do have a lot to offer still. It's one of my favorite deep cuts by far. Splinter of the Soul is also really great. And listen, buddy, if you don't like Code Orange or haven't been into what they've been doing, you're gonna hate this. The industrial-sized beat, I mean, if you're not into it, it can be pretty jarring. But I do feel like they pull it off just because of how gnarly the vocals are and how impressive the chorus is. Now, I don't think that this album is as strong as their last 2 albums. And it sucks to say that, but I do feel that way. Like, the Mask of Sanity slips. Like, this track right here, I hear this, and it's just straight ugly. I'm no stranger to Code Orange's music getting a little heady, crashing into one another. I mean, some of their best tracks sound like that, but this is just ugly, just instrumentals crashing into one another, and these artsy vocals, like, this sounds like they're trying to rip off the Dillinger Escape Plan. There's a lot of people out there that would argue that Code Orange gets a little cheesy at times, and I usually defend it, but then I hear this, and yeah, it's cheesy. Then we have a drone opting out of the hive. I mean, hearing this after Mirror, I mean, this really brings me down a peg. I mean, I wanted to hear the band go for a heavier sound after that. I was ready for it, but this is garbage. I mean, clearly, the guys and gals in Code Orange have been listening to some Mr. Bungle lately, but this is just way too cheesy once again. Most of the rest of this album's actually pretty damn great, but then they really don't end this album off in a very good way, like But a Dream, for example. Listen, they've toned down things in the past and made it work. I mean, look at Mirror. But I get a track like this. The melody is here, but then the songwriting just flops entirely. No, it's not good. It's bottom of the barrel. And The Above as a finale, one of the worst tracks here. I don't mind the subtle electronic beat and the toned down vocals. I've dealt with it in the past. But when did the songwriting get this bad? And why is this track so hopeful, weird? And it's a real shame because I do really love the last minute that we get here. So this is a tough album for me. But I do believe that Code Orange do just enough to keep them as just one of the more interesting and invigorating metalcore acts out there. Like The Game, for example. This is one of the most Code Orange by the books tracks here, and I don't think that's a bad thing. This thing is off the rails from the word go. I love how guttural and disgusting it is. Breakdown after breakdown, scream after scream. Ugh. Grooming, My Replacement, I've loved it since it dropped as a single. This is once again Code Orange by the books. It's nasty, it's gnarly, it's got a heavy riff and a great groove. And I do love the little breaks that we get throughout the verses. It's honestly one of the most exciting tracks here. This one really pumps me up. It's short, it's sweet, and I really do love the dual vocals in the final moments. Snapshot is one of the most streamlined tracks here, and I mean that in the best way. It's just as intense and in your face and seriously heavy, but the production is really slick, and this hook may be the most memorable on this entire album. I also really love Reba's very subdued, intense verse here. One of the coolest things she did here. It's a great track. It should have been a single. It shows what the band can still do. Also, the synths in the final moments. Once again, I wish we heard more of that. And Circle Through sounds like a 90s alternative metal track, but like a really good one. Let me tell you, here, there's nothing cheesy about it. Their songwriting on this track is A1. They sound awesome. And you may hate this. If you're not a Code Orange fan, this isn't going to bring you around. But I do really love the solo here. I love the determined vocals that we get. I don't know, this album, you know, while not perfect, is still scratching a lot of itches I have in modern hard rock and metalcore right now. This is a solid album. This is a very good album from Code Orange. I mean, when they are on, they are still one of the more daring and experimental bands in metalcore, and that's something that, God, we need so freaking badly right now. And yes, the blemishes here, they worry me. They get a little cheesy. They get a little much, even. But overall, I do think this is a very solid album from Code Orange. Maybe not as good as Underneath, maybe not as good as Forever, but I would dare you. I mean, outside of like Knocked Loose, there's not that many metalcore acts that I'm listening to this intently and enjoying right now. I'm feeling a decent 7 on this album. Let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.